nonprofit organization dedicated to building community one child at a time and shining a light on minorities in science. Here are the hard facts. In 1900, less than 1.3% of doctors in America were black. In 2021, less than 8% of doctors in America are black. And even more importantly, since 1940, the percentage of black male physicians have not increased. If we want different outcomes, we have to strategize differently. Gibraltar Medical is committed to shining a light on minorities in science because we believe that what you see, you can become. Today, I am particularly delighted to share a conversation I had between two medical students, Caylon in third year and D'Monte in second year. We touched on a wide range of topics, from the challenges of getting into medical school. Yes, there are challenges to being a black male in the field of medicine, and just relationships and even navigating officials. Listen, guys, no one will do for us what we must do for our community. I implore you, if there are platforms making a difference in our community, be sure to support them because there's great strength in numbers. So,
hello, my name is Caylon Pettis. I'm an M3 at Stritch School of Medicine at Loyola University in Chicago, and I'm a native of Memphis, Tennessee.
Woohoo!
And I'm D'Monte Farley, originally from St. Paul, Minnesota, and I also go to Loyola Stritch. I'm a second year medical student. And this is actually my mentor at Stritch, so that's great.
Nice. And I am Loda Ojiako, the founder of Gibraltar Medical, an organization dedicated to all things community, building community one child at a time. And today we are glad you guys are here with us because we're going to have an interesting conversation, keeping it real. So,
and we forgot to do the unison thing. We forgot to say, and we are.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about your journey into medicine. Why did you even decide medicine to start with?
So I decided medicine, well, it's kind of two different reasons. One, when I was young, I used to go to where grandma to her hospital visits a lot. And I would kind of see how people wouldn't really explain things to my grandmother the way they should. And it really kind of irritated me as a child because my grandmother would ask a question and then they would kind of just brush her off a lot of times. And so it kind of made me really want to incorporate this teaching aspect into physicians, because as a physician, you are a part teacher. So you have to make sure that you explain why are we doing the same things that we're doing. And I think that once we kind of accomplish that a little bit better, I think we will end up having better outcomes. And then two, my best friend, Jalen, he's the one who really pushed me into doing medicine, because I personally was honestly afraid to do it. I didn't think that I could, to be honest with you.
Was that because you didn't see too many people like yourself, or just, it just seemed so far away? What was it?
I think it's both, to be honest with you. I like my first black male doctor that I saw was because I was in a fraternity. I'm an alpha, and so one of my fraternity members was the first black male doctor that I met, and that was 19 going on 20. So I didn't really see that, but I worked at a pharmacy my whole from high school through college, and so like I really enjoyed working at the pharmacy. I worked in my neighborhood off Elvis Presley and Reigns, and so it's really kind of fun to actually do that. And I really love drug interactions and things like that, and actually learning about mechanisms and stuff. And so I really thought I was going to end up being a pharmacist, and I didn't even think about even attempting to go to medical school. But Monte, how's your journey?
I mean, I'm kind of the same way in the fact that like I definitely didn't think I was gonna do medicine at all. To the point like when I was going to college, like the only thing, as cliche as it sounded, because I got a track scholarship to go to college. I went to the University of North Carolina and ran track there. Well, first I went to North Dakota, then transferred to North Carolina. But in my head, I was like, I just want to do something big in sports. I want to go to the Olympics. So, you know, so like I was just thinking that. And I remember even back then, one of my cousins, one of my oldest male cousins, he was like, why don't you go and be a doctor if you're gonna go and study? And I'm like, a doctor? Like, why would I? Like, I actually like shrugged it off. I was like, why would I? I've never even thought of doing something like that, you know? And I was like, well, maybe if I can't, you know, run track still, if I get to like, you know, I pull a muscle or something, maybe I'll do like an athletic training and, you know, like still be in sport while not, if I can't compete. And I guess further down the line, the more classes I took and just more kind of things I saw, it kind of just slowly led me down the path of medicine. But I know like early on, especially at North Dakota, like he said, I didn't really see a lot of, I mean, there were really no black people in North Dakota, first and foremost. So that was the biggest thing. But like we had a guy on our team, I remember distinctly, like who was going into medicine. Like he knew that from day one. And everyone was like, wow, he's so smart. He's so this. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, man, I mean, he is smart. And I don't think I'm as smart as him. Like I probably couldn't make it as a doctor. Like I remember telling myself that. And it wasn't until like I started taking the classes, like this isn't even that hard, or I could easily do this, you know? So I think it took a little bit of like confidence building along the way to get there, because I didn't see anybody else doing it, and the only person that really told me early on, like I was just like, why, like no one's ever told me that, like why would I do that?
So how was it being in a place where you didn't see too many people that looked like you in North Dakota?
It was weird. I mean, you know, nothing against that area. I think it's just like it wasn't culturally like fulfilling for me really, and like I felt like there was something missing there, like I wasn't able to unlock like my full potential, you know. And it was just weird. Like there's certain things like explaining to my teammates why I had to put on lotion all the time, or you know, I would go into class brushing my hair. Why are you brushing your hair? You don't have hair. Like I'm trying to get waves. Like, you know, like there was just little things. Like I'm like, I don't know. And so like I think transferring, because I did 2 years there and I transferred to North Carolina, and weirdly, besides like my family, like I hadn't been around like that big of a population of black people like every single day all the time. And so like that's when I was like, man, what have I been doing? Like, you know, and it felt more like home, or like I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing now. You know?
Oh, awesome. So mentee, mentor, how did that come about?
So it's kind of funny. I met Monte during his interview. And so what really attracted me to Monte, because D'Monte was he had suspenders on and a bow tie. And so like, and I also wore suspenders and a bow tie in my interview. So that's actually and so I was like, okay, cool. And so I, you know, started a conversation with how you doing and everything like that, because, you know, I wanted to kind of make sure that he felt at home, you know what I mean? Because a lot of times when you don't have people that look like you just don't feel like, you know, that's a place that you belong. And so I was just kind of just sitting and talking to D'Monte and everything like that. And then we end up playing foosball during this interview.
Literally, this is a
so we end up playing foosball and everything. And so I give him my number and I say, you know, D'Monte, I said, it doesn't really matter if you come to Loyola or anywhere else. I said, if you need anything, you can always, you know, hit me up or anything like that. I said, I'm always just be honest with you. I'm gonna tell you the truth. I said, you may not like that all the time, because I tell you the truth. But you know, if you can deal with that, then hey, I'll be your bro forever. And so he was like, cool. And so we started talking, and then he was like, yo, Caylon, I said, you know, I really like Loyola. I said, I really think this is where I want to go. I said, should I go? And I was like, well, I said, bro, you have to do the best thing for you. I said, I don't want to make your decision for you. I don't ever want you to be like, I came to Loyola because Caylon, you know what I mean? I said, I don't want to do that, and then it may be, you know, a bad decision for you, you know, personally.
That would be a lot of pressure too.
I know, right?
And I don't want you to be like, you made my life horrible, and I'm sitting there like, bruh, I was just trying to help. But, you know, I just told him the real, like, you know, you got to make the best choice for you. And I'm glad that he chose Loyola, because I was like, hey, but if you come here, I'm going to make sure that you're set up and you're straight. I said, anything that I have, I said, you have any resources that I know about, you're going to know about. And I said, you know, this is kind of like why I believe in it, because, you know, being black my whole life, is I don't know a life without being black. It's about community, you know, a lot of times, you know. And it's especially at least in my experience, it's always been about community. I had a principal that every day would say every decision that you make had a consequence. You determine whether the consequence is positive or negative by the decision that you make. And that man, Dr. Hunter, really was like a father figure for a lot of the kids in New Haven. And a lot of us came from different walks of life and things like that. But it was really interesting to see how each of us had this great respect for him. And he made it imperative that we understood what it's meant to have community. That we all live here, we all work here, so we need to make sure that we have our community, like make sure our community is stroke okay.
Yeah.
And so it was just having that community mindedness that really was reinforced in me in high school, because it was the first time that I really felt that I was part of a community. Like, this is somewhere where I actually belong.
Exactly. You know, right?
I do, yes.
Great. So how is that working out for you both, especially in the world of medicine? Tell me a little bit about that.
I mean, for me, I know coming in, that was definitely something I was like a little bit like wary of.
Yes.
Like, I didn't know. I was even looking up stuff like, am I gonna have to cut my hair? Like, am I, before I even try to apply to medical school, because I basically had a idea that they're gonna use any sort of thing they can against you to like hold you out of the institution. And so. But at that point, I think I was just confident in the fact that I had done the work up at that point. Like, I knew I was a good candidate, and I was like, if they let something like my hair keep me out of there, like, that's obviously not somewhere where I need to be anyways.
Exactly.
So it was almost like a statement. Like, I'm like, no, I'm going to get into medical school, and I'm going to have dreadlocks, and you're going to let me, like, that's kind of how I went into every interview. And luckily, it worked out, especially at Loyola, and it was cool. So.
Okay, awesome. What about Caylon? Because when I met you the first time, your hair wasn't this way. That's why I was like, what? So tell me about that.
I had the hot top at first, but I've always liked long hair.
Yes.
But long hair is always, you have to get into a lot of different respectability politics.
Yeah.
And honestly, I wasn't brave enough as D'Monte was going into medical school to do this. But during this time of COVID, where I've had a lot of time to talk to myself and think about, what do I really want and what things do I really want to stand for, and a lot of these other different personal conversations, I realized that this was something I really wanted. And kind of like what D'Monte was saying, is that if this was going to prevent me from being in a space, then that's a space that I don't want to be. And then two, I really enjoy the fact, because when you wear your hair like this, I'm humanizing other people who are not been humanized before. And that's just really the true statement for it, because there's a lot of people who look like this and have straight backs and everything like that that come from my community, but people will automatically see and treat them as different than not as humans. You know what I mean?
Or there's people that'll even be afraid, like that look like us, that'll be afraid to go into a healthcare institution because they're like, well, I don't see anybody that look like me, or why would I even want to step in? I don't trust them. So the fact that you have Caylon walking around, he got cornrows, like they're like, oh, okay, like you can walk in a little, put your shoulders down, relax more, when you walk in there. I think that's huge too, just representation, because I think they always talk about we have to look respectable for a certain like population of patients, or we don't want them, but a lot of the times they're talking about populations of patients that don't look like us, and we have to present ourselves as respectable to them, but leave us out of it.
And I would like to say there's a difference between getting up and looking not done versus having your hair done, having your hair cut, and looking in a certain way. Yeah. Because me and D'Monte are not going out there, with our hair looking any type of way. Because it's always going to be laid, because we know we're always representing our people everywhere we go. But now that we've hit this point where we can kind of be ourselves more, I said now we can represent our people in the way that we want to. And that's kind of how I really love the fact. It's kind of really bringing back that whole 70s, love that 70s. I have an afro. I said my hair is long, and that's just how I want to express myself. And that's kind of why I love, because I'm an old soul in a young body. So.
And I guess I'm like wondering too, like what, like as far as like, okay, like patient care and stuff like that, like there's people, that we touched on before that'll come in and they are clean cut, or they might have just short hair and they no beard, no mustache, anything like that, but they're black, and patients will still turn them away just because of the fact that they're black, but they're doing, they're doing what they're supposed to do. They look the part, So it's like, I think it's regardless of how you present yourself, you're just gonna run into people like that.
Exactly.
And it sucks, but that's something that I think we're even starting to come to terms with now, because that's what people say.
So, I'm going to ask this question. The past 2 years, there's been a lot of conversation in the media regarding George Floyd. How did you guys handle that, and how do you continue to handle it in our community in terms of just even interactions with officials? When you're driving and you see that siren go off or you get pulled over, how does that make you feel? How do you engage with the police?
I think,
That's a
well,
question.
let me take a step back. George Floyd was not my first George Floyd.
Correct.
The first time that I had that experience was Trayvon Martin when I was in high school, 2012. I'll never forget that. And my mother's already talked about, when I was young, I already talked about how you're supposed to engage the police because you're African American. And that means something when they see your black skin.
Right.
So you have to, you move a little bit differently because you know that you fit the description. And
You got the same mom?
Probably so.
I was like, I'm
And so it's like, so you know that, and it's almost something that's just taught, because if you're not taught that lesson, you can end up engaging in the wrong way, and that can cost you. It can cost you your life. It can cost you a felony. It can cost you so many different things that can dictate your life. So when I get stopped by the police, I already have all my stuff ready.
Yes.
I make sure I have my license, my registration. I also bring out my school ID so you know I'm in school. So you know, so they would know like I'm in school. So I'm not doing anything. You just have to be extra careful because it's literally. You just have to be safe. You have to, if you know how the world is, you know how people view you, then you have to end up navigating in that space. It's sad to say, but most black people, we bear the mark of Cain. Yeah. And people see us and people act like a certain type of way to us until they get to know us. But even that mark of Cain.
Most black people, say that again.
I said, black people, we wear the mark of Cain. And so it's something that we can't wash off our skin color. So, people see us and they can automatically identify us. Yeah. And what they see on the media or how they, see black people is how they're going to initially see us because they don't know who, Caylon is. No one's going to think that I like puppies. And that's just the thing about it.
That is
honestly, no one, and that's the thing about it. No one automatically looks at me and be like, that guy likes to smell flowers. No one does. But it's the truth because people think that, I took this from Patrice O'Neal, and he rests in peace, but he talks about this. Like, no one really, looks at us and be like, hey, I like to, frolic in the garden and do stuff.
That's true.
Because when they see us, what their reference is not frolicking in the garden. Mm-hmm. And so, even though it's not the way we live our lives, we have to live our lives around a narrative that we've never even written about ourselves. Yeah. And that's one of the scariest things and the weird things even about being a black man is that, I've never been able to write a narrative of what it meant to be a black man. And that narrative is just, that narrative I think is trying to come out more now that we have social media and people are able to even have these conversations we're having here at Broad to Medical. But it's just a constant fight for all of us,
Yeah, and like he said, George Floyd wasn't my first George Floyd either. And so I'm from Minnesota, so it was literally it was ground zero there. It felt like it was tense. There was so much stuff going on, but even before then, a few years prior, there was a young man by the name of Philando Castile who actually he was shot and killed because he was reaching for his wallet. And, the officer thought he was reaching for a gun and shot him literally while he was in the car with his child and his girlfriend. So there's things like that. Like he said, my mom has the same conversations with me all the time. If you get stopped, please don't do anything stupid. Please just have your hands on your steering wheel. Please don't say anything crazy. But it's you can just feel like the tension in
Yes,
the air. And
yes.
I know, especially during the time of the trial, for Derek Chauvin up there, like it was just. It just felt like you could light the tension on fire with like a match. Like people were standing and ready to do something if it didn't go the way that everybody believed it should have gone. And it was just like I'm just thinking back on it, and I literally had to call my mom, and I was like, Mom, like, are you safe? Like, do you think you have to leave the city for a little bit? Because where we live, we were literally like only a few miles away from where like a lot of the things were happening at, and it was crazy. So for us, it's just like he said, like we have to like I walk in the room and I feel like I have to present myself in a way, or basically like prove that I'm something that I'm not, that you think I am. Like I have to let you know, like I'm an intellectual being. Like I'm not ghetto, or I'm not, I'm not uncultured or uneducated. Like, and it's only then when you can kind of see, like sometimes you can even see it in people. Like if they're not good at showing it, like the light bulb like go off in their eye, and they're like, oh, he's smart. Like or you tell somebody, oh yeah, I'm at medical school, and they're like, oh, so that's just a weird thing that you just kind of like learn how to like, you get desensitized to it because like that's what people think.
And that's the thing about it. It's like the desensitization of stuff, because when people want you to react to things that you've been experiencing your whole life, and they want you to react like it's something new, it's kind of hard for me, because it's like I don't expect, you know what I mean? Like I don't expect the opposite to occur. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I understand that, the moment I show anger, that's going to be considered aggression.
Oh yeah. Oh.
And and that's in any type of situation. Like I understand it. Like I can't be upset about anything, because the moment I get upset is the moment people start getting afraid.
Yeah.
So I have to learn how to smile and do all these other different things in order to make my navigation easier.
There was something you mentioned about sometimes we have to suppress our culture. Can you talk about that a little?
So D'Monte actually was talking about it, because like he was talking about how I have to like show you that I'm not ghetto or I'm not ratchet, but I'm from Memphis. And that's a whole culture in itself. I tell you, I have a lot of stories. I'm very energetic when I tell you my stories. I say Maine a lot. Like it's just, it's a lot of different things, and I don't really talk like the way I'm talking right now. I don't talk in this way especially when I'm talking to people where I'm from. I say, because that's that cultural cognizance. And so because of that, I have to learn how to switch. And you hear this term code switching, because I can't just talk about the way that I talk to the way I want to talk to D'Monte all the time, where in different situations, for example.
But that's the thing, like when people say like black people, especially like once you get to a level like this, like it's like we basically know multiple languages almost, because we have to learn how to, we have to go in this room and we have to talk like this and very proper and maybe space out our words more and kind of enunciate. But then we can be around our friends and, actually let ourselves, and I think people...
Let those guards down.
Yeah, and sometimes people might say, well, doesn't everybody do that? But I think it's a little bit different.
It's a different language, like you said. Everyone has different ways they act.
Right. Yeah, and that's.
But you don't change the way that you speak.
Yeah.
You don't change the way that you actually act. Like how you act, how you interact. Like for example, when I interact with people that I don't really know, my voice automatically lightens, because I want to make myself less threatening to you as possible. And it's so funny, because I realized I was doing it without realizing that I was doing it. When I started learning about like these type of things in college, like microaggressions and stuff like that. And so it's a lot of different traits that you have to survive in this world as an African American. And you have to know how to navigate these spaces. And a lot of times that's what a lot of us get upset about, is because the things that we should happen to us don't automatically happen to us, because we're doing the things that we're supposed to do. And you hear this constant argument, like I've done everything that I'm supposed to do. I was the good person. I was all this stuff, but it's bad things still happen to me. And that's because the structure of a lot of different things, keep us where we are.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we don't know about different opportunities. For example, like I didn't know about medicine when I was young. I knew that there were doctors, like I knew that they existed,
Right.
but like I never thought it was for me. And when I tell people that, people are always like, "Oh, Caylon, you're lying," but it's the truth. Like, because if you don't see something, you can't be something.
Yeah.
You know, like if you don't know how to, because there's a lot of steps to this. Like you just don't wake up and apply to medical school. So like my first thing, and I have to tell you because I like being real about my situation because, you know, I guess people are ashamed when not knowing stuff. I don't know. But like when I was applying to medical school for my MCAT, I went to all of my science teachers and I asked them, could I get their notes so I could study for the MCAT? Not knowing that you're supposed to have MCAT materials to study for the MCAT. I didn't know about that. That was such a huge learning curve.
Yeah.
So I had to like honestly just be stupid and ask stupid questions.
Yeah.
And I had to be like, okay, let me ask this because I don't know this. Let me go ahead and take a gander. I don't know this. And that's the only way I was able to know.
Right.
But it takes a lot of guts just to be like, I know I'm going to be stupid. And I know these people are going to look at me stupid, but it's okay because I don't know.
I mean, I'll even do you one better. I didn't even know that the MCAT was on the computer. I had no, like...
I thought it was on Scantron
I did too. Because only, like, the biggest test I had taken up to that point was the ACT.
Scantron.
And that was on, you know, it was in the booklet. So I remember they had when I was first thinking about going to medical school, they had for our school, they put together, like, an MCAT prep course. And it was, like, a crash course for a few weeks. And I was like, okay, like, I'll go to it. And the first day, they were like, okay, so when you log on to the computer, I'm like, why are they talking about computers? Like, what do they mean? And as it went on, I'm like, wait, the test is on the computer? Like, and I already almost immediately counted myself out. I'm like, man, I won't be able to flip through the pages, and I won't be able to hold it and flip it. And I'm like, how am I going to, you know? But even something like that, like, if, like you said, if you just never have seen it before, you have nobody that's gone through it, like, you just... A lot of it you're figuring out by yourself, and that's
so. You know what that brings me. Like, I know you want to say something, so go ahead, say it. But I do have a question after that. You know, in the profession of medicine, we don't see enough of us. Less than 8% of doctors are Black. Why do you think that is?
And actually, what I'm trying to say goes into that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of barriers to medicine.
Yeah.
Number one. So that because medicine is one of the most highly guarded professions, so there's a lot of barriers to medicine. You know, you can't just get in it any type of way. That's number one. Number two, I think it's a multifaceted for real. I think that education has to play. I think the type of tests that we take in schools that I've taken and the type of questions that you have in med school are require you two different types of recall. When I was taking exams, recall was just one step, like what is this, what is that? But now when you start getting into these standardized tests, it's like 2 step, 3 steps. And so you see that a lot of African Americans struggle with standardized testing, but that's because generally like no one explains how to break down questions to us. And that's something that I've had to like go through even in medicine because I had to relearn how to learn because I did not know how to learn. And when people were like, what you mean? I said, I can recall stuff. Like I can remember you say this and then I can bring it back up. But to actually go 2 steps in front of, or you tell me this is the mechanism of action. So what does this drug interact with? Or like anything like that? Like 3 steps. I had to like learn how to learn about
all those things
because
together.
the way that I learned, it was not conducive for me in medical school.
Right.
And so there's a lot of people that go through this restructuring of how they learn and like and a lot of people, even this barrier prevents them. The MCAT prevents a lot of people.
Yeah, I was gonna say because it's not even just like how he was talking, like because people can remember stuff, like that's not the issue. Like but just how he was talking about, like when you look at an MCAT question, it's not just what is this drug or what is this chemical and what does it do? It literally gives you a page-long a page-long passage that you have to go through, and somewhere buried deep in there, or maybe at the very end, it'll ask a question, and you're like, wait, I just read all of this, and this is all that you guys wanted to know. And so a lot of it, like people don't understand too, is like you are literally part of your time is studying on how to even take the test in the first place. And I don't think like that was definitely something I didn't even know that we had to do.
Exactly.
And for me, I wasn't even successful the first time I went to apply to medical school. Like I was a reapplicant. I tried in 2017 and did probably everything wrong you could do.
Oh, really?
The wrong way, because I just
that's another story.
I just didn't know. I decided late that I wanted to go into medicine, and then I didn't know that the whole process was a year long to get into, like, I didn't know that. So, and they're like, okay, the deadline to apply to school is October 15th. I submitted my application on like September 20th or something. I didn't know that everybody had already submitted their applications in July. And I'm like, why did you guys submit it so early? Oh, so then that counted out all the schools I could have got an interview at. And then my MCAT was really low. I didn't know it was that bad, but apparently, so there were so many things that I did wrong, and I didn't know I did it wrong until somebody like broke it down.
Sat you
like,
down. And who did that? Who broke it down?
I mean, part of it was just a learning experience. Like after, because I did get a couple interviews, but it was like from friends that had that were first years, kind of like telling me like, no, brother, this is how you have to do it. Like you can't do it that way.
I have a testimony.
Okay, we want to hear that.
Her name is now Paige Brooks,
Yes.
but when I knew her, Paige Jones. She is the reason why I sit here with you today.
Woohoo! Paige Jones, hi. Paige Brooks. Hey.
Because she literally, while she was in medical school, she looked over my essays. She told me, hey, Caylon, this is how you have to structure it. She gave me her MCAT books for me to study. And she's literally been there for me for this whole journey.
Yeah.
She's one of the most resilient people I've ever met in my life, because she never put those rose glasses on my eyes, because people think, oh, this is all sweet and cool, and it's not. She was like, yo, this is war. Like, you're gonna have you're gonna have to fight
every day.
All my life I had to fight, and that's for real.
No, but that's what you need, man. And speak like another thing too, like holding people, because you were talking about barriers, like finances are like no one told me, no one said anything that like it was that expensive to just apply to school.
I didn't know
Money.
Paige Jones told me about the there's
fee assistance program.
Yes.
If you guys don't know about the fee assistance program, please. That's the biggest thing I will say to anyone. Yeah. Even if you don't think you will qualify for it, apply anyways, because you never know. Like I think that was one of the
what is it?
So based on like your income, or like when you fill out your FAFSA,
your parents' income.
Yeah, so it's a familial thing, but based on that EFC number that they put in your FAFSA, they calculate if you qualify for it. And basically what it does is it gives you can apply to 20 schools for free. Like they will waive all of your application fees.
Did you guys hear that?
Apply to 20 schools free and clear. And a lot of the time, and that's another thing about medicine, the application process they don't tell you. You do a primary application, and then every school sends you back a secondary. And I was like, what is this?
That costs money.
That part costs money. But a lot of schools, if you have the FAP, the free assistance program, they will waive that fee as well, because they know that you have a financial burden. But then, let's say you're lucky enough, which is a good thing, to get interviews. Then you have to, pre-COVID, of course, you have to travel to those places to then interview. That's plane tickets or gas money, that's hotel rooms, that's dry cleaning, if you buying suits if you didn't even have one.
It didn't have a suit.
Like, I mean, there was so much that went into it that I was just like, no one said, like, everybody just says, I want to be a doctor. And everybody's like, oh my God, that's so awesome. But like, no one said, like, it's actually the craziest thing you will ever do.
Let me, about the fee assistance program too. They reduce MCAT too, and they also have MCAT materials that they send you as well. So
and that like journal booklet thing where they like compare all the different med schools in the U.S. and tell you like what schools like have high populations of black students, or this is like the breakdown of demographics of male versus female, or their pass fail, or here's the average MCAT score. So like if that was the biggest resource that helped me out, was that, because I wouldn't have been able to be here today if it was not for that.
Okay. So now we're in medical school.
Yes, we are. Thank
How has it been? Yes.
A struggle.
you. Yeah.
Let's keep it real. Come on, guys.
I mean, it is hard. I'm gonna say. Who wants it? Because hey,
You can go, Monte. I clean it up, bro.
I'm gonna say it is hard. I think the hardest part about it, and it's not like the material is just like the hardest thing ever, because if you've been doing those science classes in undergrad, you're gonna be seeing a lot of that stuff. But kind of what Caylon was alluding to earlier, they do it at such more of a depth now that it's just like, you didn't know that you needed to know this much about this enzyme in the body.
Exactly.
And then on top of that, like in college, undergrad, you'll go every other day in class, it's every single day. And it's like, it just doesn't stop.
Yeah.
So that's like, people say for medical school, it's like trying to drink out of a fire hose, basically. Like, it's impossible to get all of that, that water, that information into your brain. So you just try to get what sticks and then hope that they ask that question other times.
And then, two, for me, first pass is scary. So if
What's first pass?
So,
Because people might not know what first pass means.
So that means that I didn't take anatomy. I didn't take physio.
Whoa, before you got to that?
No,
Oh,
I didn't. So this was my first pass at the subject. Like biochem and all this stuff, because I was a biochem major. I was good at that.
Yeah.
Man, but
this tendon
but
connection.
anatomy, physio, all these other different subjects that I have never seen before in my life, and having 2 weeks to learn them in depth, was a struggle. Learning how to take an L and go about your day.
No, that's the biggest thing you can learn.
I told Monte, I said, bro, I celebrate because I took the test. Not because anything happened, because I sat there and I answered every question. And even I didn't answer every question, I answered majority of the questions.
Yeah.
So I deserve to celebrate.
That's how it is.
You have to find the joy in things. You have to also have that person that you talk to, I talk to my grandmother, and having that support group, because you need a support group.
Yes.
You need people,
Yes.
and then you also need, I'll be honest with you also need like black physicians to support you, because that's a whole, because like it's different, and it is, and people like it's different because we have a different cultural experience when we come to it, and it's different when you're doing medicine and you don't have the resources for it.
Yeah.
When your friend has to give you money so you can pay for UWorld because you can't afford UWorld right now, and you actually living off of the money that they give you in school, that they budget,
So
they say that you're
you
supposed
can't
to
take a
live
spring
off.
break trip to go to
Exactly.
Maui or go here, because I need. Frankly, I'm actually sending money back home. Like, with the money that I'm supposed to be using for, he's right. Like, there's people that will understand the struggle, and then people that won't. So it's like,
but you said something, and then you have your home on your back.
Yeah.
Because I have a family that I take care of back in Memphis. And so when they have problems, I have problems.
Exactly.
And so when I'm doing medical school and something's happening back home that I need to help my mom or my little sister, I'm not gonna keep studying and they need help.
Right.
And and people be like, well, they have to, do things by themselves. And that's a true statement. But you my family.
Right.
We ain't did stuff by ourselves since we was kids. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. My mama was an active parenter. So like she didn't allow us to be by ourselves like that.
Yeah.
So like it's just kind of like, this is my family. Like I can't not support them.
I think
like
it's
if my
for us
mama
that-
needs something, I can't not let her not have it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And for us, it's like, I don't think we have the privilege of like, okay, we know we're all going to be in school, so life just has to stop around us.
Exactly.
Like, I don't think, and I'm not saying like everybody else like doesn't get that privilege either, but it just seems like, I don't know, like you come in med school and like sometimes there's people that like, oh, my parents know that when I'm in you know, when I'm in school mode, like they can't bother me or they can't do this. I wouldn't necessarily say that my mom knows it. That's not for better or for worse.
I don't
You know,
think
because I
it's
don't
if
talk
your
about
mama
mom.
do
But
that.
yeah, she'll probably be like, you don't understand what happened today. Like, I'm like, well, what happened? Where the close the book way? What, you know?
Exactly.
Because there's always something going on, and so like there is a line. You have to learn how to, you know, balance the home life, but life is still happening. Like, I've had literally 2 relatives die within the last month and a half. You know what I'm saying? And so it's hard to like put that stuff aside, and then they're like, oh, study this, and you're like, I don't care about these.
Yeah.
And
at
I
this
don't care about
point,
that right
yeah.
now.
And
you know?
then too, it is do or die.
Yeah.
This is how I eat. I go to school and this is how I eat. And I'm just being honest. Like, this is how I eat. I pay for my clothes, my rent. So if I don't continue to go to school, that money dries up.
Yep.
That money dries up. That means that I have to go find some way in order to live.
Yeah.
So it's a difference because it's a different level of pressure.
Right.
When, you know, 1 point is a difference between you eating and not eating.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
People don't, you know, grasp that because they don't know what it's like to truly have your back against the wall and just be closing your eyes and fighting.
Right.
Because that's really what med school is. You know, especially like in my experience, it's really you just fight. And you wake up the next day and you fight. And you go back to sleep and you wake up the next day and you fight. And I'm really grateful for my upbringing because I just be honest with you, when I was a kid, when people would bully me, I would fight. And so having that resilience to be like, it does not matter if you win. I'm gonna stand up to you just because I can and I need to. I said, my mama did not raise no fool of a son. You know what I mean?
I think there's sometimes too, so let's say something happens in school, like, oh, there was an exam that was really hard, or they lecture went too far. Like, there's some students like that'll be the worst thing that could have happened to them ever. Oh my gosh, we got an extra lecture this week, and like in my mind, I'm like, I've been through harder. Like, I've been through times when we literally didn't have money, like food shelves, like you know what I'm saying, like. We, like he said, resilience. Like, we've been through so much that it's like when we get to this point, it's like this is just another obstacle.
Exactly.
And I don't know if that's necessarily the best thing that we've already gone through all of that, that makes us like that desensitized or that able to take it on. But at the same time, it makes sure like we're stable. Like, we get to that point where we're like, no, we can handle this. We've been through tougher. We can handle this. We've been through tougher. So I've had to say that to myself a lot, you know. Like,
So what about medicine and relationships? Do you know, medical school, is it like, okay, I'm gonna put that on hold, or just
I think it's really hard. Because you have to find someone that understands you. Because you have all the regular relationship problems.
Right,
That's number one. But then I don't have time.
Yeah.
And so and for any relationship to work, you have to put in work.
You're right.
You have to put in work every day. In the words of Bobby Womack, a woman gotta have it. And so, you know, she gotta know that she's needed around. That's the song. Like, you gotta, it's the truth. So you gotta put that work in every day. But when you have medical school, and medical school is your girlfriend and your wife and your kids, you know, it's hard for you to put that time in. You know, and then two, it's a different level of stress. And that's the thing people don't really talk about. It's like, when I'm stressed out for medical school and I come talk to you, I still have that medical school baggage on me. So I may not want to interact with you like that because you're not peaceful for me.
Yes.
Like I would rather just sit alone than, like, you know, because honestly, like, when you've had a very, very long day of medical school where you've been grinding, you hit a record on your Anki card. You don't want to hear nobody talk bad about you.
No,
you know what I mean?
You just like, all right, I'm
like,
gonna go.
Honestly, I just want to just sit and wallow in my bed.
Yeah.
Because I know tomorrow it's gonna come again.
Like, there's literally been times, not even lying, I've been on the phone and I didn't say a word. Like, I just like, look, and luckily, so my girlfriend, she's actually in nursing.
Okay,
so
good.
she's in nursing school. You know, I think it's big to find somebody in healthcare, like you said, somebody that understands that there's more outside than just our relationship.
I'm on the opposite. So my girlfriend's a teacher.
Hey, nice.
And I like that. I honestly like the fact that we're not both in medicine because I feel like we'll both be tired. And and we're gonna come home tired, and I'm tired, you tired, we're not gonna talk.
That's okay.
Because we're both tired. Like, I enjoy, even though, like, especially now I have to give Mari credit because Mari's taught in COVID, and she's a super teacher. Like, any teacher that's taught in this time is a super
that's real.
teacher.
What's
Like,
your name?
Mario.
Hey, Mario.
And hey, Lula.
But it's nice to have someone that does something different from you,
Yeah.
that you can have different things to talk about.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times when it comes to relationships, most people don't set up systems to keep their relationship together. So you have to understand, like, for example, there's something that you have to do every day because you have to put in work every day.
Correct.
It's not easy. I think people just think that you're supposed to be in love and frolic and
it's
in the
rainbows.
flowers.
So
and
true.
And it's not like that.
So
it's
true.
work.
Louder.
It's work.
It's work.
And you have to do it every day.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is you have to understand your partner enough. And that's the biggest thing that I think a lot of times that relationships fail because we really don't understand our partner. Like, we don't understand the bad about our partner. And that's the thing, because if we love somebody, we generally love the idea of them.
Yeah.
But a lot of times people are always sitting there, their what do you call it? Their person, I can't think of the word.
I didn't think the word either, but it's right there. It's right there.
They're representative to you.
Yeah.
And so, like, the representative would be perfect, you know what I mean? And so you don't get to know this person until 4 or 5 years down the line, generally sometimes, because they hide the bad habits because they know you don't like that.
Yeah.
So they're not going to bring it out until you've already got with them.
And then you're like, wait a minute. No, that was funny too. Like, I mean, so I'm 27 now. I feel like I wasn't 24 or 25 before I found out what a love language was. Like I was like, there's different languages to this? Like, what do you mean? Like the way people express and show it, like, I'm like, yo, I think I've been with people like past that, like, our styles just clash. Like, I show it one way, but they receive it a different way. So I'm just like, it never gets there. The message is never received.
My
like,
problem,
wow.
bro, and I love that you said that, bro.
Like, it's bad.
I did not know how to love people.
Oh my God.
And I'm learning.
Somebody get Dr. Phil.
I am.
Doctor, please.
Dr. Phil.
No, what? I'm just being honest. Like, I am learning how to love my girlfriend, Maria. Like, I'm learning every day because I'm not really an emotional person. And then so like it's always when I come and you come with me with a problem, I have to realize that sometimes I just have to listen and not say nothing. Like, that was a learning thing.
True.
I just have to, because sometimes you're not coming to me for a solution.
Yes.
You just come to me just to say that so you can have a place that you can talk. So that's what you want. But no one explained that to me, for a long time. Like, I had to realize this, like, oh, you just want to talk to me. Okay, let me not talk. Then I have to ask, because I ask for consent for my commentary. Because, like, I need to know, do you want me to speak on this or not?
Like,
And that has helped me so much. Do you
bad.
really want me to respond or you just want me to listen to you? But learning how to love is so hard. And I think a lot of men, especially I think a lot of black men, to be honest with you, we have never really taught how to love somebody. And then two, we're not even taught how to be loved. Because a lot of us don't really even know what love is because it's been so responsibility driven.
Yeah. I was told, well, I mean, not that it was like the words, but it's like, girls are a distraction. You'll have time for that later. But it's like, well, if I don't figure it out now, how am I gonna know what to do when I get there? So, yeah.
So just, you touched on, black men love responsibility. And, just taking that a step further, having a dad and a father figure at home, how does that change things?
100%. It changes things 100%, I believe. Having a father figure that can tell you what it's like to be a man, to understand the things that you're going to go through, helps you not go through a lot of the bad things. I'm thankful for my pops. I'm thankful for my granddaddy. Them long car rides where you just sitting there, you talking. He's talking about life. You're not even understanding half the stuff that he's telling you right now because you ain't hit that level of manhood because you only 8. You know what I mean? 8, 9, 10. But like I talk to my granddaddy all the time. I'm like, yo, granddaddy, you said this. and I didn't understand what you meant by that. But yo, like he was right, granddaddy. I said he was right, and that's because you need somebody to plant those seeds.
Yeah.
You need somebody to kind of tell you how to navigate, because a lot of times you need someone who navigates as a man to tell you how to navigate as a man, because you have to know what it means to, what it means to take care of your family, what it means to protect your family, what it means to get the softest version of your girlfriend. You know, a lot of people don't know how to do that, because you have to present a space where she could be free, where she could tell you anything that she wants to tell you, and you are able to accept it and talk about it. Now, it's hard. I'm not telling you that's easy now, you know, but once you create that place, you know, your relationship becomes easier, because now you have an open line of communication, and you know. But a lot of men have to be taught that.
He's preaching now.
I know.
I mean, you gotta be taught that. You know, you gotta be taught. You gotta be taught how to deal with women.
Yeah.
Because, bro, you're not supposed to argue with your woman. I don't argue with Marielle. Now, Marielle will come and bring a situation to me, and I'll listen to her. I will listen to her, and I will listen to her fully. And I have to think about, and I ask her questions based on what she said, because I want to make sure I get a full understanding. But I'm not gonna argue with her.
Yeah.
Cause why?
Yeah.
You right, baby?
Hey.
Why? Cause it's not even worth it.
Yeah.
Because once you start arguing and bringing that strife into your home and not resolving it, now you got seeds of strife. And you know that's not good at all, because now you building up. And you know, one thing that I always say is that, you know, a woman, I heard that a woman can take something and multiply it. You know, you give, you know, with a child, she multiplies it. Your home, she multiplies it. You know what I mean? Because I know how I lived before and how I live with Mari, two different ways of living. I'll be honest with you. But like, you know, multiply. But if you give her straight,
I know, right?
This is what to do.
I'm just telling you.
I feel you on the arguing thing, because I told Lou, I'm like, look, I can't argue no more. I can't. We can't do it. She was like, no, you just listen. I'm like, you're right. I'm gonna just listen.
Exactly.
Right. I'm gonna just.
So how do we get more of, you know, minorities into medicine? What do you guys think? And you know, when you're done, what are your thoughts in terms of paying it forward?
Mentorship. Mentorship. I have to tell people how to do this, because it's a convoluted road, and if you don't have the game plan to navigate it, you will not go through this. That's number one. Number two, organizations like I Am Able are essential.
Oh yeah. Hey sweetie, Dr. Conway, I Am Able.
They're essential, because literally they are building the pipeline for medicine, because there's a certain level of rigor that you have to experience in order for you to be in medicine. And if you don't experience that rigor, you're not going to be successful in medicine. And so having that pipeline that gives you that rigor in a controlled setting is wonderful. I said, because a lot of times we get dropped into these very rigorous situations and no way of knowing how to communicate, how to navigate, how to do anything. And because of that, we let things happen to us. Like a lot of things in my college career I let happen because I didn't know I had the power to not do it. I never knew I could extend the exam until I got to medical school. Like I never knew that. I never knew that I could, like, for asking for an extension, like was, because it's just like, why would I ask for extension? They said it was this date, so it's gonna be this date. Like, you know, and so, Caylon, there's something going on in your life, you can ask for an extension. What?
Yeah, if I would have known that.
I could have done this my whole life. Knowing, like, and not being afraid. Like, there's a story that, you know, me and my best friend Jalen, we had a project together in college. And we pretty much, we turned in the same project with both of our names on the header. So it said Caylon Pettis and Jalen Powell, and both of us on the header. Same thing. Our professor comes and talks to us and says we're cheating. And we're like, we're not, because how can you cheat if we have both of our names on both of these papers? I said, there's no getting over. We didn't understand the assignment, so let us at least redo the assignment. He gave us a 50 for it, which messed up our GPA, which was another barrier to get into medical school. I was too afraid to even contest it with the honor council because he asked us, do we want to go to the honor council? But I'm black. I'm scared of them. You know what I mean? And, you know, and it's just kind of like, I don't want no one to ever think that I was doing bad, and I know that because of this marker came, people gonna automatically think ill, consider me the villain. So, you know, we just took the 50.
Yeah.
Which we talk about to this day, how that was sad. We should have talked to somebody, but we didn't know who to talk to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's my whole thing about it. Like, we have to, Black people who have made it and who have gone through these struggles, we have to put our hand back and show people the way.
Yeah.
Now I understand, like, you know, like I understand this whole, you know, I put my work in and I deserve the rest, and you do. But you also have a call, and that's just the truth.
Yeah.
I said, you didn't make it just for yourself or your kids, because if that was the case,
And they probably
there was
didn't
no
make
reason.
it by themselves either.
Yes.
And that's the biggest thing. Like, it's
Amen.
like, so like you should, even if it's just one person that you like, you know, like help somebody else along the path to get there. And I like what he said about just like modeling, like even going back to when he was talking about like even having like a father in the home, because like I didn't grow up with my father actually. Like I you know, my mom was a single parent, and so a lot of just even modeling, like not even talking about medicine, but just how to like deal with certain circumstances and like have that stability, like that wasn't something I already had. So then it was another barrier of added responsibility. Now I have to be the man of the house. Now I have to step up, you know. And then getting to the point, like he said, of identifying mentors or people that can tell you the answers, or you know, not being scared to ask those questions, because there are a lot of times, and even now that I'm like, I walk around and sometimes I'm confused, like, wait, what are we supposed to do? And you just have to get to the point where you're like, I just have to ask. Like there are people there that will help you, but sometimes we don't even know that we have the ability to ask questions because we're too worried that, like you said, people are going to judge us or look down on us because they think we're stupid, or of course a Black kid asks a question, you know, like there's so many of those things that stack up. And I think one of the biggest things for me too, like to get more minorities into medicine, is just being like honest, like, and being transparent, like letting them know, like I think like especially at North Carolina, you talk to 10 people, 7 out of those 10 people will tell you they're pre-med. Like, but no one is telling you what they're doing or how to get there. And then there was even fewer Black people saying that they were pre-med. So I think for me, just letting people like know the steps, like, look, this is what you gotta do, this was gonna happen. And also telling people that you're probably going to fail along the way. I think that's something that people should know. And you shouted out, I am able. I remember Dr. Conway, when we went to her house earlier this year, she told us, hey, Dr. Conway, how you doing? She told us, she was like, y'all, like, especially with there being so few of us, like Black people in healthcare, like we really have to like stick together, band together, and not letting the person next to you fail.
Exactly.
You know, like having the wherewithal to check in on your people and be like, hey, you guys good? Like, do we have to go over this? Like, even if we all got to link up and study because the test is 2 days away, we will stay up and study to make sure we all make it. Exactly. And I think that's what it is. It's like we reaching out to not only the people behind us, but those that are with us. And making sure everybody gets there. And so that's why I appreciate Caylon, because he let me know. He was like, dude, I'm not telling you to come here. He's like, but if you do, just know that I got your back. And I'm like, and I've never had somebody like tell me that to that like so specific extent that like I believed every word. I was like, oh yeah, that's like, it's a no-brainer. Why would I go somewhere I don't know if you know nobody? I'm like, he already told me, you know. So I think it's that, just being very honest with people and just giving them clear like expectations, and this is the reality, but you're going to be okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I want to touch one thing you said about failure.
Yes.
I think it's important that we understand how to turn failure into opportunity. And I think that's the biggest thing about how people respond to failure. Because people look at my life and think that, you know, oh, Caylon, you're winning. But honestly, I'm a loser. I just know how to take it. Like, honestly, like I'm gonna be real with you. Like, I was the nerd in school. I was the one that was picked on in school. Like, I was never a popular kid, you know. I mean, people knew me because, I mean, like, I was smart. But, like, you know, as far as, like, being popular and stuff like that, no, I was always the one taking L's, you know. And then when in high school, even in college, you know, like, people laugh about me taking L's. But the thing about it is, 2 L's make a W. And so the thing about life, always gonna give you one of them. So
wow.
2 L's make a W, bro.
I'll never in my life.
I'm telling you, bro, because literally life is gonna give you an L. So you got to figure out what sacrifice or what L you gonna give yourself in order to make it an opportunity. So you got to go ahead to 2 L's and you get that W. So a lot of times when that door get closed, you got to stop and think.
Yes.
Too many people react and they don't think. You need to stop and think. Okay, cool. What's
I'm-
all on the table right now? What do I want to do? Because every time a door closes in my face, it's a time for me to reflect. Because clearly I've gotten to this point, and so now I got to figure out what I want to do. Do I still want to do this? Am I still want to do do I still want to navigate this way? Okay, I thought about this opportunity. Okay, cool. I need to apply for this scholarship. Now I got time to do that.
Right.
You know, let me pull some stuff off the shelf that I had in my head and start working on that. Because every time a closed door does not mean that you know that you're supposed to stop and
Right.
Now sometimes you gotta cry a little bit. I ain't against crying, because sometimes you got because med school get to you. You know what I mean? Sometimes you gotta go ahead and get you that good cry. You know what I mean? That Jodeci cry. You know what I mean?
Oh my God.
You gotta get that cry.
But you're right though, because I mean, like I said, I didn't even make it into med school the first time I applied. And you know, a lot of times there's some people they'll apply the first time, not get in, and that'll be it.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
I don't have that money to just do it again, or I don't want to go through this process again, because it is a long process. But like you said, like being able to know that you have to have that resilience about you, and I think that's like huge, to be able to take those lessons and respond from them. So you didn't get in, figure out why you didn't get in. You know, for me, I had to end up going back and doing the post-bac program to raise my grades up to be in a place where I could be taken seriously by, the administration committees and stuff. So that was like my journey, and there's a lot of people that have that same journey, so yeah.
Awesome. So